One conference recommendation before we start: the Animal Health Nutrition and Technology Innovation, short ANTI, is where a lot of what you're buying in the next 3 years is getting funded right now. Learn more about anti-us.com and use code VIP10 to save 10% on registration. It's the biggest concentration of innovators in the industry, and I'm excited to be amongst them this year. I'll be there pitching in the Innovation Showcase with Serenity Vet, our operating system for relief management that helps clinics take control over one of the most expensive and least optimized parts of their operations: labor. So use the code VIP10, save 10%, and if you're going, drop me a note on LinkedIn. I'd love to meet you there. You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast.
You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. My name is Sean Wilkie, and along with my awesome co-host, we interview the innovators in this space every week. Ivan, please kick us off.
Hey, I'm Ivan Zach, and I'm excited to introduce another entrepreneur on our podcast. Today's guest is Gary Peters. He's a two-time exited founder and co-founder and CEO of PupPilot, with a master's degree focusing in artificial intelligence from Carnegie Mellon University. He has spoken at AHA, NAVC, VIC, and Cornell Savvy, and been invited to contribute to veterinary and AI research with institutions including University of Guelph and Stanford's HAI, respectively. Gary is also an alum of Stanford's StartX and Inception's AI Founder Fellow and active member of Foundation Capital's Build. Gary, welcome to the show. Thank you for finding the time.
Pleasure to be here.
That's quite a background. Pretty impressive. Before we dive into PupPilot, what were the other two startups?
My last two startups kind of both went through that Stanford entrepreneurship and residence program there, and they were in the fintech space. So, doing much more of what's now referred to as traditional machine learning, kind of deep learning. We did a lot of things with like random forests for default rate prediction inside of fintech. So, the veterinary space is very new to myself, but it is not to my other co founder, who's also my wife, Nora, and she is the DVM on our team. She's been in the space obviously for many more years than I have, and it's kind of been a lifelong passion for her. And that's how I ended up finding this space and joining.
That's a great story. And you have a haircut for this, I'll tell you that. And for those that are listening, we have similar haircut, not Sean.
Great haircuts, think alike. I love it.
Okay, well, tell us all about PupPilot. What problem are you trying to solve? How does that help veterinarians? And what are we looking at here?
Yeah, and so a lot of this came from Nora. So Nora used to be what's referred to usually as a high output surgeon. So she did spay, neuter, high volume there. And she basically ended up being in a position many times where the clinic was operating fairly understaffed, and especially in the front office. And that ended up being a problem that persisted. And what ends up happening is a lot of people in the back office end up going into the front office, and then Nora is in the back doing 40 surgeries in a day, and she is well understaffed to be able, from a support perspective. And that problem was incredibly painful to her. And when all these new artificial intelligence AI tools were coming out, what she came to me with was, is there some way that we can help burnout within the space? Because that was something that she was really struggling with. And we spent a decent amount of time exploring the space and looking and seeing, what could be some of the most impactful things that we can do. And that's kind of how we settled on what PupPilot does today, which is focusing on being the AI front office for the veterinary space. And a lot of what that means right now is handling inbound calls using AI, handling outbound calls using AI, and then kind of more complex client engagement using artificial intelligence. And so a simple application of this is after hours voicemail. You call in after hours, the AI picks up and answer all sorts of questions.
That's amazing.
So we we invested into something like that, not building, but using. So one of the vendors, your competitor, I'm all about technology, and I jumped right in. We have 6 hospitals running right now, and then we're urgent care, and we wanted to sort out the incoming calls. Our drop rate and our conversion dropped by at least 40%. And whether it was the quality of the product, too early, whether we live in the boonies and people are just not willing to talk to a computer, maybe all of the above. But what do you think is the technology there? Because I feel I was all for it. We invested like 5 6 months, did the scripts, changed the prompts, and like there was all of this stuff, and then finally we were like, we got to pull the plug because this probably drained like if not $1 million, but a lot of incoming calls got diverted. So I'm all pro technology, but tell me what's cutting edge you're doing that people embrace your technology and love it.
Yeah, so I like to think of my specific specialty, given my background, is kind of knowing when is a frontier technology actually ready for application. So if you asked me that question 1 year ago, I would say it's not ready. If you asked me this question 9 months ago, I would say it's not ready. If you asked me this question 6 months ago, I would say it's starting to become ready. And if you asked me this question 3 months ago, I would say it's in production and ready to go. So that may answer your question, but it's all about timing. And it is incredible the pace that these models have been able to improve at. I will say there are probably two additional considerations. One, what we've generally seen, and I don't know the vendor that you all used, but many players operate in a horizontal way. And what I mean by that is they're in veterinary medicine, and then they're in the dental space, and then they're in chiropractics, et cetera, and they don't take into account the nuances of veterinary medicine. Veterinary medicine is very difficult compared to a lot of things inside of human medicine. That can be because of different data standards, different data interoperabilities. And if you're using a provider that's cut across multiple different domains, you end up having a distracted provider that's not figuring out how to do this incredibly deep integration with your PIMS, how to map out all the different veterinary flows. They are very different. At its core, veterinary medicine is obviously different than human medicine, but even kind of going a few layers deeper, almost every part of it's different, especially because it's cash based, right? In the sense that, there's only 2 to 4% of people that are insured. Most of the AI phone providers that are outside of veterinary medicine focus on insurance workflows. And that's the main thing that they have to provide value. That's not valuable for veterinary medicine. What's valuable for veterinary medicine is being able to triage the call correctly. Many times it's being able to schedule, and it's also having a high level of fidelity as far as the AI voice is concerned. And that's pretty difficult. And only in the past few months has it actually made any sense. And this is the difficulty with new tech, right? 1 month it's working, the next month, or 1 month it's not working, the next month breakthrough takes place and it is. Is that helpful context? Or I could kind of go deeper too, if helpful.
More than no, you're answering it. Yeah, I think that we probably jumped early, and I like your answer. And I do want to compliment you on your website because I'm looking through it right now. And from marketing perspective, I love that you're actually comparing it to other products that are in the space, and you're detailing why and how because those are all the questions that you probably get on the call.
Oh, and I was going to say one thing that also, not to go too technical too quickly, we actually do a lot of hardware as well, because that's one of the things that we realize causes the biggest issue is that many pieces of hardware in the vet space are very different than human medicine, not getting too deep into the weeds. But what we've had to actually do is upgrade a lot of the actual hardware. And this could actually be the telecom rails itself. We're also like a telephone provider. That was the primary way to solve a lot of those audio quality issues is we built a telephone system. So when you buy us, for example, you buy a telephone system, it's just included. We don't charge for it because that's what we see as a prerequisite to the service. So many people are already paying, it could be like two, three, $400 a month for their telephone system, more for obviously larger clinics. And then that's just included in the price. And many times they basically just replace their old telephone system and they now have a new telephone system, which is much better, plus all the AI functionality that we offer at a fairly similar price. And that's been a really big value add for a lot of clinics. Because we also price differently, which is a lot less for vet clinics compared to, human medicine, because human medicine charges a lot more. So we charge kind of more according to vet rates.
Here, I got a two-parter for you. Really, really interesting. First is, what's an ideal client look like for you guys, and what does that relationship look like for the client after they've implemented your solution, if everything goes well?
Yeah, so right now, what we would probably be focusing predominantly on is general practice and individually owned and operated. And the reason why is that we've seen with like larger private equity rollouts, for example, it's possible, but as noted, what ends up happening is that there's many different vendors in play. They have a different person for their telecom solution. They have a different person for their IT solution. And what ends up happening is you create significant level of interoperability issues. Whereas when we work with typically a smaller owned and operated individual practice that's run by a general practice clinic, we basically go in and kind of land and expand as far as we take over one service like their telecom, and then we take over the email, and then we take over the management of the website, and we take over all the different front office pieces and help support them, not just from a software layer, but also a hardware layer and an IT layer. And they can move a lot quicker in being able to adopt all of these things. I think that ultimately private equity backed firms would benefit from this as well, but we are really focusing on people who have kind of high conviction on being able to move on a lot of this. What I would like to say is that the AI service is only as valuable as the rails that it's running on, and we help modernize the clinic. That's really our goal.
So, what other solutions do you have? So, you walk in with a phone system that naturally your solution lives on. So, that makes complete sense. And then, from what I understand, so your AI incoming calls, then you mentioned emails and stuff. Can you walk us through the sort of dream practice, somewhat what Sean asked you? What the dream practice with all your bells and whistle implemented looks like?
So, it's a number of clinics that we started working with are de novo. So we'll actually set up their entire IT stack. Now, I should note that this is not something that we're released to the larger public yet. So if you came to me, you'd have to potentially end up on a waiting list, but we'll actually run everything. We set up servers, we set up switches, we set up all of your hardware stack. We actually run full IT MSP, is what we usually refer to it as, so that we are your one-stop shop for everything as far as the kind of hardware inside the clinic, plus the software that's going to really be touching it. This can be recorders in the room that connect to AI scribing solutions, including video cameras that would be able to turn on and off based off of a doctor being able to walk in or out. This is what we set up to be able to enable this. But for the average clinic that's coming to us right now, the primary focus that we're focused on is basically setting up their communications with their client. So I would say there's a difference in between what we set up, which enables the long run, versus what we set up and enable for the vast majority of people right now, which is the like front office piece. And that is going to be phones, email, texting. And a lot of what that looks like for context is we see the calls that come in, we categorize those calls, and we also generally manage the website for individuals. So what that means is that when somebody calls in and they have a question about services that you're providing, the AI can answer them, or the AI can actually text them an answer that's found on your website. And so we actually link the two of those things together so that as calls come in, we recognize what people are calling about. And then we use that to actually create content for the vet clinic, which allows them to kind of boost their SEO and GEO. And so we combine those as a single service. So the average clinic that's using us is using us for inbound AI handled calls and outbound AI handled calls and text and communications. And we've linked that to their website so that they can have a seamless experience. And that includes also anything related to scheduling, which is probably one of the primary features that is utilized. We'd say that 80% of all inbound calls are admin related. So this is someone calling in about medication. This is someone calling in about scheduling. This is someone calling in about FAQs. And the AI is able to handle about 50 to 60% of these end to end without any human involvement. So this is scheduling someone automatically inside of their PIMS. This is being able to send out a text about information that's already found on their website. This is being able to create content that is not yet on their website, but is inside of their knowledge base, and then boosting that for marketing purposes. So it's all connected. And that's the primary focus of kind of where we live right now, while at the same time setting up that hardware for the long run.
So you named so many things. And then at the end you said, and that's the primary thing that we were focusing on. I was like, holy cow, there's so many cool things. So you mentioned SEO, MSP, email, incoming, outgoing, text, and phone. I see value in all of them. And someone overarching and orchestrating all of them at the same time, I see huge value. I build clinics too. So basically, we're opening the 7th right now. And if I were to go in and say, Gary, I'm all in, how much it would cost me? Everything.
Our prices are $300 per clinic per month and $175 per doctor per month to start. And so that's our tier one, which is the telecom inbound AI voice. Tier two is $500 a month plus 175 a month per doctor, and that includes the website and automated marketing. And that's where most people live. And I should note, and maybe I explained it poorly, I apologize. The ITMSP is not available for the broader public. That's not the focus as of right now. That's kind of, you would mention like where we're going, and that's what I was noting. So that's kind of our higher end tiers. But the average clinic is having all of their service satisfied. So this is AI scheduling, this is AI texting mid call. These are outbound outreach campaigns at that $500 a month plus 175 per doctor per month. And that allows for quite a complex set of interactions when it comes to AI calling, AI texting, inbound, outbound. And these are not just simple reminder campaigns that is part of it, like, hey, you have an appointment upcoming, but this is also, oh, you just did a surgery and we are going to give an AI call out until we get a hold of the person. We're going to call and text the person. And it's an AI calling and saying and asking like dynamic questions like, are you noticing a foul smell at the surgery site? Is your pet acting particularly lethargic? And it's asking those questions. And then based on those answers, it's raising it up to the doctor, right? So like that's kind of the core product is really that AI calling and texting and then being able to mesh that with the website because we see that all as one and the same, right? Like those are the front office surfaces is your email, your phones, your texting, your website. These are all the front office because this is what the client ends up seeing. And so we want to be able to connect all those pieces and have them basically run as a AI first touch routed to your team as needed. We're not trying to replace the team. What we see this as is a way to effectively triage and route accordingly.
That makes a ton of sense. Gary, one of the things that I noticed when I was reviewing your website prior to the call is it looks like you integrate with almost every PIMS on the planet. Is that a true integration, or are you guys doing something like computer vision, or how are you making that happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's proprietary, but we were able to do quite a lot on that front. So this kind of goes back to how our company started in the first place. So as a reminder, my background has been kind of on this edge between kind of AI research and applied AI. And so when we started the company, when my wife came to talk to me about kind of how we could help burnout inside of veterinary medicine, we didn't just jump right into the product that I talked to you about, the AI front office. What we did is I went back to a Stanford professor that I had worked with previously. His name is Professor Andrew Moss. And Professor Moss has got a pretty big laundry list of things when it comes to claim to fame. But one of his bigger ones was helping set up Google's original deep learning clusters for their AI. And he's been involved in some of the biggest innovations inside of Silicon Valley, specifically around search. And so when you are able to very powerfully parse through search, it opens up a lot of doors. And generative AI at its core has an accuracy issue. So what it needs is a search engine to resolve those accuracy issues. So when Nora initially said, hey, how can we resolve these accuracy issues so that it can be used inside of veterinary medicine, right? How can we use generative AI inside of veterinary medicine? Professor Moss was a great person to go reach out to figure out how can we make these systems accurate. And VetMed has an interoperability issue, right? Like all these different systems trying to talk to each other, which can be reframed as a search issue, right? It is difficult to know, hey, when I get this data from this system, how should it go talk to this system? Or, this one medical record system codes everything this way. This other medical record system doesn't code anything at all. How do these things all mesh together? And so, technically speaking, this becomes what's sometimes referred to as like a dynamic ontology problem, which basically means how do I mesh all of these different systems together? And so when you are able to solve effectively this search problem in a dynamic way that's automatically able to happen, you in turn end up solving the question that you presented. And so we worked on him with this for probably a little over a year before really kind of getting into what we're doing now. His trying to think of there's a few NDAs with other work that we had done outside of this space. I'm trying to make sure I don't cross anything. It's a very powerful engine across a lot of different health standards. It was established. And so it is a very exciting piece of newer technology that does exist inside of the market of basically these dynamic ontologies. I've actually spoken on this a number of times at like the different in a more technical capacity at the different talks that I've given. That's kind of like what I was predominantly presenting on previously.
Very cool.
So, can I ask us kind of my simple, non technical veterinarian brain? So, do you integrate with permission or do you integrate Like you can do it without begging them to open APIs and go through layers that are intermediate between the on-prem and and everything else? Or did you build proprietary engine where you can essentially get access to information in the search in PIMs that are like not really connecting at will?
You have to always do everything with permission and proper authorization.
Okay, because that's kind of the question that came up recently in some of these things. So, with the new AI development, if you don't have to write back, a lot of these things, like Sean mentioned, you can essentially get off the screen. Right. So you can really read the calendar, the appointment book, a lot of these things. There's a lot of conversations in the industry right now. Do we have to pay a tax to companies that hold the keys to biggest footprint of PIMS, and then they charge you more than your not only profit margin, but your also COGS in your business without caring if it's profitable or not to these startups to connect to these PIMs? And that's kind of the issue that we are running into a lot in our industry, because all of these integrations, they want to, toll booth on everything. And then you're ending up with no profitability because every clinic connection costs you so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a factor in all of this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, where can people find you? How can they learn about what's in the market now? What's the dream, and how they can get on that journey with you?
Yeah, so the easiest way to find us is puppilot.co. That is our primary website. You can always book a demo through us there if you're interested in how AI calling can be increasing the amount of bookings you're having, how you could be recapturing any type of kind of missed calls to be able to convert that more towards revenue, anything in that ballpark. We'd be able to really help with that first. That's kind of our primary killer use case for a lot of people, is getting people more bookings. So happy to chat on that more. You can find us at puppilot.co. My name is Gary Peters. So always happy to chat with you all directly. And yeah, go from there.
Amazing, Gary. Well, thanks for making the time. We've got two questions that we like to ask at the end of every episode.
Oh, sure.
First one for you is a book, a YouTube video, a TED Talk, something that you found inspiring as you're on your journey as an entrepreneur in the AI space.
I generally really like the YouTube and kind of podcast creator Dwarkesh. I really recommend him. He's a really knowledgeable individual, and his podcast probably would be one of the best resources if you're looking to better understand kind of the fundamentals of how these AI models are being built, not like on a technical level, but the limitations that they're running into and how they're kind of getting around those limitations, because it gives very good guidance of kind of like where everything is going.
Amazing. Sounds awesome.
That's awesome. And the last question that we usually ask, is there another innovator in this industry that you know that would be a good guest for us?
Yeah, and I know you'd all asked us that, I think, in the email form before, and I don't know if it's fair or unfair. One of the individuals I would say is Dr. Alec Costin. He's on our team, just for context, to disclose that piece. He's a co-founder. He has a very interesting background. I initially met him in undergrad, where we had done a number of kind of AI classes together. His initial undergrad degree, I think, was kind of in either bioengineering or computer science itself. And then he went to go become a medical doctor. So he's currently an ER doctor, and he's now been inside of veterinary medicine for about 2 or 3 years now. I think he's also one of the advisors for the AVMA when it comes to artificial intelligence. So he's one of those individuals that is definitely got quite a breadth and depth of knowledge, and would definitely recommend picking his brain, because I've always found there's only been a handful of people that I've run into that are like DVM and MD. Not to say that he is DVM by any means, but he is definitely much more down the veterinary path than most MD doctors ever go. And he definitely has found it to be a very interesting experience and has a lot of different thoughts on it to say.
Thank you so much for listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. If you want to hear about our new episodes, please follow us on any social media channel. Also, you can check out our website at veterinaryinnovationpodcast.com. See you next week.